Hilchas Mechirah Perek Achadoser. So here the Rambam is going to discuss the chiluk between tnoim and asmachta. Because when a person makes a ma'aseh kinyan and he makes a tnai, so a tnai works. And the Hilchas Atnoim the Rambam discussed in Hilchas Ishus Perek Vav. And one of the Hilchas Atnoim is that the tnai has to be a davar she'efshel l'kaima. If a person makes a tnai, amanas shetal l'rekia, so it's not something which is efshel l'kaima, so the tnai is bottle and the ma'aseh is kaim. But there is a musig of tnoim. So we had tnoim by kedushin, al derazeh this tnoim by gerushin, and al derazeh this tnoim by kinyanim. A person makes a ma'aseh kinyan, and that kinyan is done al tnai, so the tnai works. If the tnai is niskayim, so then the kinyan was chal, and if it wasn't niskayim, the kinyan wasn't chal. But that the Rambam is saying that that's b'medvar mamurim, when a person made a ma'aseh kinyan now, he makes a ma'aseh kinyan now, and the ma'aseh kinyan now is going to happen b'tnai. Masha'enkin, when a person makes a ma'aseh, he doesn't make a ma'aseh kinyan now. And even though he makes the ma'aseh kinyan, but m'chadchila, the ma'aseh kinyan is almanas, that the kinyan should be chal later if this and this happens. So Mela, really, right now, nothing is happening until something else is going to happen later. So then we say, since he's being soymech, he's expecting that maybe it's not going to happen, so there was no real gemiras das for the kinyan, and therefore the kinyan is not kena, it's nachamol. When a person makes a ma'aseh kinyan now, and there was a din ma'aseh kinyan right now, so lepel, even though it was al t'nai, so the t'nai is kayam, and memele, if the t'nai is niskayam, so the ma'aseh kinyan works. Masha'enkin, if a person doesn't make the ma'aseh kinyan, that the ma'aseh kinyan should be chal now. He only wants that the ma'aseh kinyan should be chal later, depending on a certain situation, so then that's called an asmachta, and asmachta likanya. There are multi choice. Perek achados, hamakna, ben karka ben metaltalin. A person is makna karka or metaltalin, and the hisna tnoim she'efshel l'kaiman. He made a tnai, and in order for a tnai to have a din of a tnai, it has to be a tnai she'efshel l'kaiman. Ben shehisna makna, ben shehisna l'keach, regardless of who expressed the tnai, whether the moicher or the l'keach, is im niskaimu atnoim nikna davar shenikna. If lepel the tnai was niskayim, so then it became nikna. V'imlei niskayim hatnai is like kana. So the tnai is kayim. There was a kinyan and there was a tnai, and the tnai is kayim. If the tnai was niskayim, so the kinyan was chal, and if not, the kinyan is not chal. Ukfar biyanu mishpati atnoim b'hilchas ishus. The various different dinim of tnoim we'll learn in hilchas ishus and the four tnoim and a tnai, etc. Halacha base. B'medvar mamurim that we're saying that if a person makes a ma'aseh kinyan now, and then he does it al atnai, so it depends whether the tnai will be niskayim or not. That's b'shekona b'derech min adrachim shekenim b'hem, when he made a ma'aseh kinyan, and it's only v'harei yesh olav l'kayim b'satnai. It's only that there's a tnai involved, but lepel there was already a ma'aseh kinyan. Avalim leikana ata, if he didn't make a ma'aseh kinyan now. Now the ma'aseh is the lashon of leikana ata sounds like there was b'chalal no ma'aseh kinyan. There was only a dibur ba'alma. And l'chur, if there's only a dibur ba'alma, so b'chalal, you don't have to command asmachta likanya. A dibur is, if a person commits himself to do something achar zman, so l'chur, that commitment is not a real commitment. L'chur, you have to understand what's the chiddush asmachta likanya. If there was no ma'aseh kinyan right now, so l'chur, even if he committed himself, so a person commits himself, he could be chayzer. Maybe he's not considered a nishnama we learned before, but on the other end, a commitment is not mechayev. Over here it means even if there was a ma'aseh kinyan. But the ma'aseh kinyan wasn't that it should be chal now. Avalim leikon ata, the kinyan wasn't for now. V'hisna ime, l'chura, that's you have to say pshat. V'hisna ime, she'im niskayim atnai zeh, yikna, he'll be koina later. L'chatchila, the deal was that if niskayim atnai zeh is yikna, v'im lei niskayim, and if it won't be niskayim, is lei yikna, so this kinyan shouldn't be a kinyan, but l'chatchila, the upmach was that the kinyan is going to be chal later, is afal pi sheniskayim atnai, so and he already did the ma'aseh kinyan before, but the ma'aseh kinyan was that it should be chal later, so we say leikana. Why? Shezu asmachti, that's considered an asmachta. This is taicha asmachta. Shari somach kniyosei lasis kach v'kach. The whole kinyan, whether or not it's a kinyan or not, is only dependent on a certain thing, whether something will happen. V'chol asmachta ein kena. Shari ligomer b'libe laknese. Is nachama. When a person makes a ma'aseh kinyan now, and right now it's definitely a ma'aseh kinyan, it's just that this ma'aseh kinyan is contingent on something else. It depends on something else. So that's considered, I made a ma'aseh kinyan, and there was a gemiras das to make a ma'aseh kinyan. It's just that there was a t'nai in the ma'aseh kinyan. Masha'enkin, even if I make a ma'aseh kinyan now, but I don't want this ma'aseh kinyan to be chal until later, I don't want to be chal until later, depending on a certain thing, whether this Maisa Kinyan should be chal. So b'chiyai gavin, that's called asmachta. So it's like, you know, in Havanas Advarim, it's so different than Havanas Advarim. But Peil Mamish, you have to, it's not so clear. In other words, over here the pshat is, I'm making a Maisa Kinyan. I'm making a Maisa Kinyan now, but the Maisa Kinyan is mitl Italia, in a Tnai that's going to happen later. Over here the pshat is, I'm making also a Maisa Kinyan. But I'm making a Maisa Kinyan that the whole Kinyan should only be chal later if this and this happens. It's not pshat that the Kinyan is chal now, and bitnai that this and this is going to happen, that's when I want it to be chal now. No, I want that this Kinyan should be chal later, if this and this happens. So since I'm not making a Maisa Kinyan later, now, the Tanai, the Maisa Kinyan is somewhat kniyose, las is kach v'kach, so it wasn't gomer beliber la knese, so therefore it's not considered a Maisa Kinyan. Now the Maisa is, there's another din, b'chlal, when a person makes a Maisa Kinyan, so there could be a problem of kol sekinyane, which means a Maisa Kinyan now, without shnoim, a person's going to make a Maisa Meshicha now, and he should be kain al-achar zman, the Meshicha is not going to work. Because lepel, the Meshicha is kol sekinyan, it's called the kol sekinyan, means the kinyan is not there. When he wants the kinyan to be chal, the kinyan is not there anymore. So we have to be talking about it in a situation where there's no problem of kol sekinyan. In other words, I made a Maisa Kinyan now, and that Maisa Kinyan is still lingering on later. But since lepel, I wanted that this Maisa Kinyan should have a din Maisa Kinyan, only depending on a certain situation, so there was no gomer belibe for this Maisa Kinyan, and therefore it's not Kana. Case of the Rambam is a case. Hamecher bayis lechaveri, ein nosnei matana. So he's right now giving him, he's selling it to him now, and he's giving it to him now. Aber al manas sheyeh lechim el Yerushalayim b'yem pleni, and lepel v'hilzik ze bayis now. Is harei zakonis. He was Canaan now. He's Canaan now, and the Kinyan is be'emes chal. In other words, lepel, the Kinyan is nigmar. Sheyeh lechim el Yerushalayim b'yem. When he's nigmar el Yerushalayim b'yem, so it comes out that he's Kana. So even though the pale, the Gemara Kinyan is going to happen later, like the Rambam said in Hilchas Ishus that by Tanoim, the Gemara Kinyan happens later, but the pale, the Kinyan, the Maisa Kinyan, already happened earlier. In other words, it's not pshat is that it's only going to become a Maisa Kinyan later. There was already a Maisa Kinyan earlier. The Rambam discussed it, that there's certain times when a person makes a Maisa Kinyan, and it's not really called a Maisa Kinyan until later. And there's sometimes when a person makes a Maisa Kinyan, and the Maisa Kinyan is already now. Over here we're talking about the Tanai is the time you made a Maisa Kinyan now. Even though the Chalois is really going to happen later. A Tanai, the Pshat, a person makes a Maisa Kinyan, and it's B'Tanai that this and this is going to happen, and Lepel, the Gemar of the Chalois HaKinyan, is actually going to happen after the Kiyum HaTanai, unless he said Al-Manas. But nevertheless, the Maisa Kinyan Rebbe happened earlier. And since the Maisa Kinyan happened earlier, so there was a Gemar Das for a Maisa Kinyan. Asmachta is when a person makes a Maisa Kinyan and he doesn't want that this should be a Maisa Kinyan B'chlal until it happens later. Until what happens later. Only then should it be a Maisa Kinyan. Then it goes into the Ger of Asmachta. That's L'chorah the Pashtus Hadvar. That's talking about he made a Maisa Kinyan today and it was Al-Manas that he'll Yechu Imel Yerushalayim and Lepel if he goes to Yerushalayim so he's Canaan. If he doesn't go to Yerushalayim he's not Canaan. Avalim Hisna V'Amarle Im Telech Imel Yerushalayim B'Yem Pleni Im Tovali Dover Pleni is etin lecha bayezeh or am kirenu lecha bekach v'kach. That's what he told him. And v'holach ime beisayim eshehevilei is afal pi shehirzik bebayes acher shekiyam at night. The way the Rambam is saying it, he made a deal with him that if this and this happens, I'll sell you the house. And lepel he was magzik bebayes ach, I'll give you the house. And lepel he was magzik bebayes acher shekiyam at night. So the din is lekona shezui asmachta v'chein kol kiyetzah b'zeh. So the way it says here in the Rambam, it sounds like that the Iker Chiddush is that Lepel, he doesn't have to fulfill his words. There's, even though he said this is going to happen, but Lepel, he doesn't have to fill his words because there was no real Gomer Daita to do it. But the Maisa is that L'chura B'chlal, when a person commits himself to something, he never has to fulfill his words. I mean, you're supposed to fulfill your words, but it's not a psachiyuv, a chishon mishpadik, a chiyuv, that someone could be tivei when you commit yourself to someone, to something, even without time. A person says, I'll give you a house. I'll give you a house. He said, I'll give you a house. So Lepel, the person's not Canaan. Now over here, the vart is also that even if that person made a Kinyan later, Lepel is not Canaan. Because Lepel, we don't consider it a real commitment. It wasn't like Lechazeku Kni. But the Mefarshim explained that over here it's also talking about, even though the Rambam doesn't touch is clear, that there was a Maisa Kinyan. Even though there was a Maisa Kinyan over here. and he said this Ma'aseh Kinyan should be chal im telechim Yerushalayim is etel lechabayizeh, and there was a Ma'aseh Kinyan, like the Rambam will say later in a different case of Asmachta, that there was a Ma'aseh Kinyan. Nevertheless, but since the Ma'aseh Kinyan was on something which was not being chal now, that's going to be chal later, so therefore that Ma'aseh Kinyan is not chal. Lefichach, hanoisen eiravin lechaver va'amerle. They make up a deal that Reuven makes up a deal with Shimon that he's going to buy something from him. He's going to buy something from it. But Lepil, there was no Ma'aseh Kinyan yet. There was no Ma'aseh Kinyan yet. He didn't buy it yet. Now he wants to, so to speak, make the Ma'aseh Kinyan. He wants to make that the Opmach should be a klar Opmach. So therefore, he wants to show to him that he's very serious about it. So he gives him a mashkin. If I change my mind about buying this whatever it is there veni machalacha? So I'm being mochel this eiraven. Notice, if I'm going to be chayzer, this eiraven is machalacha. So he's giving him right now a eiraven, and he's saying, if I'll be chayzer, this eiraven is machalacha. V'halo eimer, and the one that the seller that received the eiraven, he says, v'mani chayzer bi, and if I'm going to change my mind and not sell it to you, I'll give you double your eiraven. I'll give you back your eiraven, obviously, and I'll also give you another eiraven, the same value like yours, or give you twice this value. Is al kol pon im chazer be'alikeach. If the likeach was chazer, since he already gave the eiraven and then he made this t'nai kana zeh eiraven. Why shari tachas yodi? Because there was already a Ma'aseh Kinyan. Abu v'im chazer be'amecher. If the mecher was chazer, ein mechayven eisel lichpel eiraven. That he's not mechuyev to give back a double of this eiraven. Why? Shezu asmachti v'asmachta likanya. Since there was no Ma'aseh Kinyan right now, in order to bring out this din, to make the chiyuv right now, over here, he had the item in his possession. So he made a Ma'aseh Kinyan in this eirav, and he said, the Ma'aseh Kinyan, it depends whether or not it'll have charota. But over here, there was nothing he had in his possession. So, and the chiddush is bepashtus, and if he just said it, so again, as we said, if a person just says something, so l'chur it's pashut, he's not mechuyev to keep his words. There's no chiyuv. There's an inyan to keep your words, but there's no chiyuv mitzad choshen mishpat to be tiveya for him to keep his words. But over here, the chiddush is that even if there was a Ma'aseh Kinyan, the Ram will say it behemshach. V'chein mi shapara mixas chayv. You have a case where someone paid up half a part of his chayv, and lepeil he owes more, and he doesn't want the tiveya to kvetch him now for the other money. So what he did is a hishlish shtar. He put the shtar by a third party. Knows that the malva shouldn't have it, the lever shouldn't have it, va'amrli, and he told to the sholosh, imli nasati lechoad yem pleni. If I don't give the malva, he tells the malva, if I don't give you this money, what I owe you until a certain date, is 10 leishtari. So this sholosh could give the shtar to the malva, and it's going to come out that the money that I gave the malva will be kilo money, mois matana. I still owe the malva the money. I paid the malva part of the money. The lever paid the malva part of the money, but the malva is kvetching him for the rest of the money, and the lever maybe has the rest of the money, but he doesn't want to pay the malva right now, or he has assets, and he doesn't want the malva to press him. So he says, "Listen, I'm going to pay you within a month. If I pay you within a month, it's fine, and if I don't pay you within a month, so here's this shtar. I'm giving it biyad sholish, and I want the sholish to give you back the shtar. And the mela, I'm going to end up losing the money that I paid you, because that money I paid you is going to become ki'ilu. It was a stama present." That was this ten lishtar. V'higiyaz man v'lei nasanlei is lei yitin hasholish hashtar. The sholish shouldn't give the shtar again. Shesu asmachti. It was asmachti. And as he said, give him the shtar if this and this happens. Lepel, there was no kinyan on the shtar. There was no kinyan on the shtar. Since there was no kinyan on the shtar, so therefore this obligation that the leiva committed himself, that the sholish, or that he wants to give the whole shtar to the malva because he is paying up late. That's not a binding connection. People make up deals with each other. And there's a shtar about this deal. They make a deal. If this and this happens, so then I'm committed to myself. And there's a shtar about it. There was a kinyan on it. But the kinyan was about something that's going to happen later. A late tasa is le'akna l'cha v'le'etna l'cha. So the din is afal pi she'osoi shehoya hadavar. Even though lepel he did what he made up to do, or it happened what they made up, and lepel lechur according to the deal he should be kind of something. He should be getting something, is leikona. Shekol le'emer im yiyah le'yiyah is leik gomer v'hikna. There was no gemiras das. Sharei daite adayin semecha shema yiyah shema le'yiyah. He's not really sure that it's going to happen, so he didn't really commit himself. So you have to understand this word over here. Knows when a person makes a ma'aseh kinyan now, so then that's not called a smachta, even though the ma'aseh kinyan is on a t'nai. So really, l'chur, it's not really sure that it's going to happen. But kilo, it happened already. It happened already, but it's on a t'nai. Masha'enkin, when a person commits himself that if this and this happens, that's what's, so then I'm going to give you. And even though I made a kinyan on that as chayvus, but lapel, this chayvus was that if and this happens, I'm going to give you. So since I never gave you, it's just that if this and this happens, I'm going to give you. So then that's considered as smachta. That's what the Rambam Taik Shazuis and Halacha Zayin. Kol ha'emer knei mi'achshav. Person says, buy it now. Is ain't kind of smachta klal. V'kana. She'ila ligomer la'knesi. If he wouldn't have really had a das, a full das to be makna, lehikno mi'achshav, he wouldn't have given him mi'achshav. He says, in bosi v'at yen pleni, if I come before this and this day, is knei bayezem mi'achshav. So now you should buy this bayez mi'achshav. And v'kona miyodi al kach, and there was a kinyan on it. So then, as I raise a kona, in bo b'tei chazman shekova. V'chein kol kietz b'zeh bo ha'she'enkin, if he tells him that in bo mikan v'ashleshim yem knei et habayis hazeh then, and lepel he made a ma'aseh kinyan on it, so there was also a ma'aseh kinyan. So l'chura ma'aseh kinyan could be mechayev. So you say, yeah, ma'aseh kinyan could be mechayev if there was no asmachta. But since over here there was asmachta because it's imbosi, and maybe he wasn't sure that it was going to happen, so therefore that's called asmachta, and asmachta is not going to. So again, we have to, it's not, in the Rambam, it's not so clear that the whole time we're talking about with a ma'aseh kinyan. But l'chura it's muchak, because without a ma'aseh kinyan, so it's dvarim ba'alma. So since it's dvarim ba'alma, so l'chura, what's this? How could it be as chayvus? Over here the vort is that when a person makes a ma'aseh kinyan, and it makes a ma'aseh kinyan for now, so even though the ma'aseh kinyan is ala t'nai, and we're adding that even though by a t'nai, be'em is the full chales happens later, but the ma'aseh kinyan happened now ala chales, ala t'nai, so the kinyan was chal, and the t'nai is chal, and lepel, if the t'nai is niskayim, so then the kinyan was niskayim, and if not, not. B'medvar mamurim, if you made a ma'aseh kinyan for now, even though it was ala t'nai. Masha'enkin, if you make a ma'aseh kinyan melchatchila, depending on something, so if you make a ma'aseh kinyan for later, and we're talking about a ma'aseh kinyan that could work for later, so then it could work. So it works. A person's makna makes a ma'aseh chalipin in order to be makna a house, or kesef, you koiner a house for later. So that's beferish that you could be koiner a house for later. Whereas I give kesef to the meicher, and the deal is that I'm going to be koiner it later, but there's no ifs. So then for sure I'm koiner later. And Masha'enkin, if I say I want to be koiner later, but on t'nai that this and this happens, so then if I'm koiner now al t'nai, so that's beseder, that's called the kinyan al t'nai, because there was a commitment to the kinyan now. Masha'enkin, if I say I want to be koiner later, and depending on what happens, so then that's considered asmachta, and asmachta is leikanya. You have to understand the l'chura, when a person, let's say, makes up that if you do this and this, I'm going to sell my house. If you come with me to Yerushalayim, we said before, so then he tells him, Omer, Telech imi Yerushalayim halachi gimel, b'yem pleini, so then, etin lecha bayizeh, ayam kirena lecha bekach v'kach. So that was the deal. At Lepel, we said, let's say he made a kinyan. But l'chura, why shouldn't he be chayiv? It's like schiros, like just like when a person makes up with someone, that if you do this and this, I'll give you this. So just like you hire someone to do something, how does it work? That person does something because you want him to do it, and now you owe him to pay him back for what he did. So he worked for you, or he did things for you. Over here, he went Telech imil Yerushalayim being pleni. So you went with me Yerushalayim being pleni, and I made up that I'm going to give you my house as a matana. But vice is, in other words, it's clear that it's not dmei schiros. It's not pshat, I'm giving you dmei schiros. If this happens, so then I'm going to give you a matana, or I'm going to make a sale. So vice is ba'efim kazeh, that's not called dmei schiros. And therefore, that goes into a gather of asmachta, and asmachta is not king. Halacha ches. Mi shechot mocha chatzeri eisodeu. Upirish b'shas ha-mechirah, shehu mecher kedei leilech l'mokum pleni, that the reason why he's doing this is because he wants to go somewhere, and therefore he's moving out of this area, and therefore that's why he's selling his house, or his chotzer, or his sada. Or he's saying another reason he's saying, but nehamoter shenimna, there was no rain, and therefore he doesn't have wheat. he doesn't have wheat, and he wants to buy wheat in order to be able to sow, to plant in his field. So therefore, he's selling this field, or this chotzer, he's selling this chotzer or this field, in order to go ahead and take the money to buy wheat or to buy whatever. So when a person does that, is hareze kemechar al tnai. So even though he didn't stipulate clearly, he didn't say clearly, I'm doing this bitnai, that this and this, that I accomplished this and this. But since he said clearly that the reason why he's doing it is because of this, it's keilu, like he said clearly that that this should only be chal if the reason why he's doing it works. Before he got a chance to go away and get chitim, the mutter came down already, so there was no need for him to go and sell this field anymore. Oy, bo chitim v'huzlu, or whatever reason, chitim came along and it was much cheaper. So really, again, there was no need for him to go. There was really no need. It was like no need for him to sell his field or to sell his chotzer. Oy, nimna haderech leilach leisha aretz. He's saying he's selling this because he's traveling somewhere. The Gemara says he was traveling to Eretz Yisrael, and lepel he didn't end up traveling. Not something happened, but lepel it didn't happen. It just didn't work out. Whereas in cases the Rambam said till now there was things changed and he didn't need to do it anymore, or if it just didn't work out anymore. So the din is, since it's as if he made a t'nai, even though he didn't make a t'nai, it's as if he made a t'nai. So then it's ari machzer oisen domen. So then the seller has to, the buyer rather, the seller has to give back the money that he took, and v'tachzeli akarka, and the buyer, which took the karka, gives back to the seller the karka. Shari pirish, because he said clearly, she'eni mecher, elalas is dover pleni, v'hareli nase v'chen kol kietz v'zeh. Since he said clearly that the reason why, only reason he's doing it is because of this, so therefore, and if it didn't happen, it wasn't kenev. And Meister, the Rambam is saying it here, behemshech, to the dinim of asmachta likanya. No, it's like a sniff in the hilchas asmachta. Just like asmachta, we say there was no real ma'aseh kinyan because maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen. So over here it's clearly, he's saying clearly that the reason why he's doing it is because of this, and therefore since it didn't happen, so mele there was no gomer daite la knese. It's ki'ilu, he was masna. It was ki'ilu in ma'aseh. Shari pirish eini meichel lasa over plane, b'alei nasa v'chen kol kietz b'zeh. That's talking about when a person was meicher and he clearly said that the reason why he's selling it is because of this and this reason, and lepel, that reason didn't work out. Aval ha-meicher stam, a person goes ahead and sells a field stam, is afal pi shehoye belibe shemipnei kach v'kach hu meicher. The real reason is that he sold it was because this and this reason, a specific reason. And va'afal pi shemarin advarim she'ena meicher elalasas kach. It's not only something which he's saying it, and we have to believe him, it's something which is marin advarim. In other words, for example, the Gemara says over there, everybody knew that he wants to go to Eretz Yisrael. But when he bought the field, he didn't say clearly, I'm buying the field because I want to go to Eretz Yisrael. Lepel, he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, and everyone knew he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. And then he sold the field. So the pastors advarim is, why was he selling the field? Because he wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, but he didn't say it. So he's saying, Aval b'shemarin advarim she'ina meicher elalas is kach v'kach, and lepel is lenasa is eni cheze. Why? Sharei le pirish, because since he didn't say clearly that's the reason why he's doing it. Memelo udvarim shebelev ein advarim, things that he had in his heart is not considered dvarim. So therefore, even though this was really the reason, and we believe him, but nevertheless, since he didn't clearly say it, so therefore it's not considered a t'nai. Halacha yud mi shehikna lechaverei v'hisna olav al manashe titan mekar zeh a timkurenu lepleni. The t'nai was that he's going to either sell it or give it away to someone. So Reuven is selling it to Shimon, but the t'nai is that Shimon should either give it to Levi or sell it to Levi. So the din is im nosnei machri leisipleni. If this Shimon went ahead and gave it to Levi, or he sold it to Levi, depending what the t'nai is, so it's kana. And vim leiki amatnai, if lepel he wasn't the kind of t'nai, and lepel or machri leachari, this Shimon didn't sell it to Levi, he sold it to a Yehuda. A shalei machri v'lei nosnei bizman shekavle, who didn't sell it or give it in the time they made up, is leikana. So Bekitzer, this t'nai is a regular t'nai. He can make up a t'nai for him to sell it, or to give it, and to tell him when to sell it, and to who to sell it, etc. V'chein, ha-meicher ha'likeach shehisnu, sheyachzer le'amekach bizman pleni, ek sheyitn le'amois. So in other words, he wants that he's selling an item, but he says, I want that in a certain time you should sell me back the item, or when I pay you for the item. When I pay you for the item, when I give you back the money for the item, I want you to give me back this karka. So then is Harei HaMecher Kayim V'Yachzik Sheyisna. So the Mechir comes along and says, listen, I'm selling you this item, but on the other hand, I want that in the event that I want to buy the item back, or in a certain date, I'll make up a date when I'm going to buy the item back. At that point in time, I want to buy this item back. So basically, I'm selling you taka the item, but the t'nai is that I'll have a right to buy the item back from you, or a certain date, or when I have money. Now this t'nai that he'll pay it back, and there's obviously the Mechir is making the t'nai that the lekeach should agree that he'll sell it to him at a certain date, or when he'll have money. I mean, the lekeach can't make this t'nai. It says over here, "V'chein haMechir lekeach shehisnu." Whereas the lekeach is only saying that I'm willing to do it. In other words, the lekeach can't force the Mechir to buy the item. Because basically, the Mechir wants to have the right. I'm selling you the item, but on the other hand, I don't really want to part from this field, but I want to have the right to buy it back when I have money, or at a certain date, I want to have the right. In other words, I'm selling it on a certain date, I want to buy it back. So basically, I'm selling it to you right now, but you should know that I'm going to buy it back, and that's considered a good sale. It's considered a t'nai. Just like when I sell an item, and I make up with t'nai that you're going to sell it to someone else, so huadin, I can make up an item and buy it back to myself. Now the ma'aseh is there's a isser ribus. Isser ribus means I'm now that he lend someone money, al manas that person is going to pay me for the time that he has the money. He's going to have my money, and he's not before he pays me back. He's going to use the money for that. I want to charge him. That's the isser ribus. The schar amtanas mois. So again, let's say Reuven has money. Shimon needs the money. So Memela, so for Reuven to give the money, Almanas, that Shimon should pay back Reuven more than Shimon took, that would be considered ribus. Now over here, we have a situation, Reuven has a field. Now Shimon has money. Now Reuven really wants to borrow money from Shimon. He wants to borrow money from Shimon. Let's say Shimon doesn't want to lend him the money. But for ribus, Shimon would lend him the money, but you're not allowed to take ribus. So there's an eitzel. The eitzel is a say. Reuven has a field, so Reuven's going to tell Shimon Herzog, take this field, and you use the field. And the viola, you'll give me money for the field. So it's a sale. There's no problem. But the deal is that if I'm going to have money, the deal is when I'm going to have enough, right now I need the money to spend. But when I'm going to have enough money to go ahead and buy this field back, I hope with the money that you give me, I'll make money. And in Mela, I'll be able to go ahead and buy back this field from you. Basically give you back the money that you gave me. But the viola Shimon gained because Shimon, the viola, used the field. So in other words, Shimon has money. The money of Shimon was by Reuven. Lepel Reuven is giving back the money of Shimon back to Reuven, back to Shimon. But meanwhile, Shimon used the money. So Ribis it wasn't because that wasn't the deal. The deal wasn't that schar amtonas mois. The deal was I'm buying the field from you. In other words, Shimon bought the field from Reuven. He gave Reuven money, and Lepel, the deal was that Reuven could buy the field back. So Lepel, when Reuven buys the field back, so basically he's really giving the money back. No, when he's giving the money back, what did Shimon gain? Shimon, in the interim, had the payers. So when there's such a deal, it's really like a ribus derabanan. It's like it's the same idea of ribus. It's just that they didn't specify ribus. So therefore, you're not allowed to do that. So that's what the halacha yudalef. I mean, you're allowed to do it, but you're not allowed to eat the payers. Halacha yudalef. Machar karka l'chaveri. Someone went ahead, let's say Reuven and Shimon. Reuven sold the field to Shimon. And v'hisna amecher, and Reuven made a t'nai, because Reuven really doesn't want to get rid of the field. But Reuven needs money. So Memela, and Shimon is willing to lend his money to Reuven as long as he could use the field. So his macher karka l'chaveri, v'hisna mecher v'amal l'lekeach, and the mecher made a t'nai with the lekeach, aksheyu limois, when I'm going to have money, is tachzli akarka zu. So basically what we look at it is as if there was never a sale. All there was a halva. There was a halva, and for this halva, Shimon was using the money. So the din is already a perishal mecher. So you could have such a deal, but in such a deal, Shimon is not allowed to eat the payers, because if Shimon is going to eat the payers, it's going to come out that there was ribis. Since Reuven is going to give back the money to Shimon and take back the field, so basically Shimon was eating the payers because Shimon's money was by Reuven. So therefore the payers belong to Shimon. That's talking about if there was a t'nai. If the Meicher clearly said, I'm selling to you, but on the Tanai, that I could get back the field. So basically, it's not a sale; it's just a loan. So basically, it's just a loan. I'm lending you the money. In other words, I'm sorry. It's not a sale. I'm just borrowing the money. I'm borrowing the money, but tonight that I could get my field back, which means I'm going to pay you back the money, and I'm going to get back my field. However, Mochalistam, if Lepel, Ruvain didn't make up this rule. Ruvain is the buyer over here. Ruvain is not the one that says, listen, I'm selling you the field, but Bitnai, I could buy the field back, which then Ruvain is basically making the money that he's getting into a loan. Basically, by Ruvain saying that I'm selling you the field, but really I want to be able to buy the field back. So basically, Ruvain is saying, I'm selling you the field, but in reality, what I'm doing is borrowing the money, and the while I'm letting you use my field, and eventually I hope to pay you back the money and then get my field back. And the while you're going to use the field. So then it's mamish ribis. However, Mochalistam, Ruvain didn't make this stipulation. Ruvain just sold him. And the lekech on his own accord says, when you have money, Tevimli, you don't have to worry. I know you're under stress, that's why you're selling the field. You don't really want to sell the field. So you're selling the field, but you should know if you'll have money, bring it. So then, I'm not really sure what the words were atnai kayim. There was no tnai over here. There was a commitment on the lekech's part, but there was no tnai mamish. I'm not sure. V'halekech echel peres ve'im b'ze avakribus. There's no even avakribus. Shari midaitich chiyav atzmei b'tnai zeh. He was mechayiv himself b'daitich. So the mele vices, even if it became a tnai, vices maybe even if it became a tnai in the Mechirah. In other words, it became part of the Mechirah, but since it was a part of the Mechirah that didn't come mitzad the Moicher, it came mitzad the Lekeach, so therefore it doesn't go into a get of Ribis. It's Nachamol. When the Moicher makes this Tanai, so basically the Moicher is saying, I'm not really selling you a field. In other words, when the Moicher makes a Tanai and he says, I want to be able to get the field back, so he's basically saying, I'm not really selling you the field. I'm borrowing this money, and I'm giving you this field to use because you're lending me the money. And when I'm going to have the money back and I'll pay you, so I'm going to take the field back and you're going to stop using the money. And the loan will be paid. So it becomes from a sale a loan, even though technically it was a sale, but be'emes, be'pnimius, it was a loan. And that's usher. It's usher midrabanan. It's not usher minatera, because they didn't really make up clearly a loan, but it's usher midrabanan. Masha'inken, if he didn't make it up, he made the sale or pushed the sale, just that the lekech added that he's willing to sell it back if the meicher has money, so then there's no problem. Halacha Yud Beis. Maisa be'isha shesholcha Ruvain liknis lechotzer mishim shoya krevi. There was a woman that she went to buy a chotzer from Shimon Shoya Krevi. She sent Ruvain to buy a chotzer from Shimon Shoya Krevi. So she had money. Her karev Shimon needed money, so she sent Ruvain to buy this chotzer from Shimon Shoya Krevi. Now, va'amar Shimon ameichel Ruvain ashliach. So this Ruvain was the shliach on her behalf to buy the field for her, and he was the one that had the money. So Shimon says to Reuven Ashlich, Im yiuli mois, if I'll have money, tazeli plainis krivasi karkazu, will I be able to get back this karka? In other words, he's coming and being matzia that he wants to buy the karka. She's willing to buy the karka from him for her. So he asks, tazeli plainis krivasi karkazu, will she give me back this karka if I have money? Now, Lepel, the din would be that if Lepel, she would be willing to give the no, here is he is the seller. So Lepel, that's basically saying that I'm just really lending you the money, and I'm letting you use the karka as long as the money's by you, but I want to be able to give you back the money and take the karka back. That's basically what we said before, which wouldn't entitle her to eat the peiros. There would be a problem of her eating the peiros, because if, let's say, they would agree, but Lepel, the peiros would be his, because Lepel, when he gives back the money, so it would be a glory Muslim afraid that the whole thing was only a loan. But I'll call upon, this is what she asked. Im yili mois, if I'll have money, tazli plainis krivasi karkazu. And Reuven was the one that was really making over here, Vaistis, he had the rights to make decisions over here. That's what it looks like. And the yeshiva Reuven v'amali atu plainis krevim k'meyachim. Kaleimar hadavar karev shehi tagzul cha ve'eina makpedes alzu. In other words, the pashtus advarim is that she would be interested in helping you out. So therefore, right now, she's buying the field from you because she wants to help you out and give you money. But the pastors, if you'll have money and you want to get the field back, Mustama she'll agree. And Lepel, they made the deal. Uba ma'aseh lefnei chacham va'amru harei ze hashliach leikana klum. The shliach wasn't koine anything on behalf of the Mishalech. In other words, the issue was never really koine the karka. Why? The shliach, the person that was selling, the shimon, which was selling the karka, wasn't really saying magdas that he'll get what he wants. Reuven didn't answer to say for sure she'll sell it, give it back. It wasn't a tshuva brura. So here we're saying that since there was no gemiras das, so therefore there was no real kin. You have to understand, there was a ma'aseh. Did he give her the money? He gave her the money. He gave her the money, and basically she gave him some type of a shtar to say that the karka is hers, the karka is the person's. If there was no ma'aseh kinyan, so there's nothing to talk about. There was a ma'aseh kinyan, and the whole purpose was giving the money. So she said, was there just a ma'aseh kinyan without an exchange of money, so that we could say there was no real gemar das? If there was actually an exchange of money, would this then also be that even though she received the money, but she wasn't really gomer b'halaknis because she wasn't really sure that she's going to get the money back? I'm not really sure what the din would be in such a case. But lepel, the din is that it's considered that there was no kinyan at all, and therefore, if lepel, she would have eaten. In other words, if lepel, she did give the money, and she would go ahead and eat from the payers of that money, so that it's brought down that then it would have a din of ribas ktsutza mamish, and mele would be yetze b'dayonim. In other words, ribas derabbanan is not yetze b'dayonim. Ribas ktsutza, if it's ribas menatera, it will be yetze b'dayonim. So over here, in other words, if we're saying that there was really no ma'aseh kinyan at all, so basically what happened is her money, let's say we'll say the money was given. She sent money with Reuven to give to Shimon. And Lepel, Shimon got the money. And now Shimon is asking, we're saying that there was no real sale. So now if there was no real sale, how is she eating the paytas? So she's eating the paytas mamish ribas, because there was just a loan. In other words, if there was a sale, but it wasn't a real sale, in other words, because Lepel, the purpose of the sale was in order just to give the money, it was just a technical sale. So that's ribas derabbanan. But Hashenkin, if there was no sale, in other words, Lepel, this shliach Ruvain brought the money to Shimon. And Lepel, Shimon didn't really sell it to her. But Lepel, she's eating the payers from that karka. So that payers of that karka would have a din of ribas ktsutza, ribas menatera, and would be yetze b'dayonim. That's what the Mefarshim explain. Halacha Yud Gimel. Now, asmachta, so we learned that asmachta is not kaina. We gave examples of asmachta. Asmachta is not kaina, which means when a person commits himself to something, and it's only if something and this is going to happen, and the commitment didn't take place now, it's going to take place, so then the asmachta is not kaina. Now, asmachta shekona miyodeh Allah bebezn choshev. It was done in a bezn choshev. This commitment of the asmachta was done in a bezn choshev is arei zekona. V'hu sheyitves schuyese bebezn v'hu shaliyah onus. Kate said, what does that mean? Harei shehitves shtorei oishoivri bebezn. So we said before the mashal the shtar that he put it biat sholish. So we said there was an asmachta. But over here he went ahead and took his shtar or his shaver and he put it in bezn. And v'kana biyodeh, and they made a ma'aseh kinyan with him. Shim bo b'yein pleni, im shimlei bo b'yein pleni. If he doesn't come on a certain day, is yinos and shtar zel lebaldinei. So the shtar will be given lebaldinei. In other words, he has to come and have a dintera or whatever. So he has a shtar, and that shtar says that the other person owes him money. And lepel, he puts the shtar by bezn. He tells bezn, listen, if I don't come on this and this day, so this shtar should be given to my baldin, or this shaver should be given to my baldin. And v'igi hayem v'leibo, so the din is harei l'nesin. So they are able to give it. And those, even though normally a asmachta wouldn't work, so if a person commits himself for something to happen, and it was only in boim leibo, so therefore he never really was gamer das that it's going to happen. So therefore there wasn't a real commitment, but when it was done in a bezn choshev, so it's considered a commitment. The mikveh nor echele milavi, you know, the tnai was in leibo. She'im leibo b'yein pleni yinos, and lepel he wanted to come. And the reason why he didn't come, because there was an einus, in ikvei nor echele milavi, is then leyitnu, v'chen kol kiyetzvus, because the tnai was that if I don't come, on my own right, but lepel, since he did want to come, so therefore that's not really the deal. And v'hu sheyeh bebezn choshev. This din that asmachta is kena, that there could be a kinyan of asmachta, is only by a bezn choshev. Now, hamechayev atzmei b'momen la'acher b'lei tnai klal. Person commits himself to give someone money. Is aval pi shelo hoya chayev liklum. He didn't really owe him anything. is nevertheless Ariza Chayiv. Shedavar Zematoni, Ve'enim Asmachta. That's not called Asmachta. That's called a commitment. A person commits himself with a kinyan to give someone money. Okay, so the Eimal Eidim, Havu Alai Eidim, Shani Chayiv will play any money. So he said this in front of Eidim, and he says, Havu Alai Eidim, Shani Chayiv will play any money. So that's also a hischayvus. It's a hischayvus. It's a kinyan that's considered hischayvus that he said in front of Eidim. Now, if he said a hischayvus, which is connected to asmachta, so then it's not kena. Masha'inkin, if he said a hischayvus without asmachta, without any tnoim, so then it is kena. Nochmal. Ha'emal le'edim havu alai edim shani chayiv will play nimona. Eishekazav le'bishtar. Hareini chayiv l'chomona. Is aval pi she'en shom edim. Without writing a star, he actually just said, Hareini chayiv l'chomona b'shtar. Aval pi shel yomer atem edim. Is hail ba'omar b'shtar. Is harei zeh k'misha omar havu alai edim chayiv l'shal. So we have a case, hayu alai edim shani chayiv. There's a case where he writes a star. And then there's a case where he says, Hareini chayiv atzmei lepleni b'shtar. And it was in front of edim without saying harei alai edim. Is aval pi sheshneim edim. V'edim yedim. It's not really a Hidas Baldin. There was no Hidas Baldin because Lepel, everyone agrees that nothing really ever happened. He never owed him any money. So he's saying no. Lepel, he was Mechayiv himself. Just like an Arif could be Meshabed himself, even though he didn't get anything. He just Meshabed himself. He says, if you lend this and this person money, I'm going to owe that person. I'm going to owe you if that person doesn't pay. That's the din of an Arif. So the same thing, even though I didn't receive anything, but I'm committing myself in front of Eidim, that's also considered a commitment. That's when Sharichiv Atzmei, Kimeshi Yishtabed Arif, Ukazeh, Hoiru Reiv Hagoyim. Now the Maisa is, the Rambam says over here, the Lashon, Kimeshi Yishtabed Ha'arif. Now we learned B'chlal, by Arif, we learned by the Isha, that if a person is Mekadesh Isha, the way he's Mekadesh Isha, is the Isha tells him, instead of giving the money to me, give the money to someone else. So the din is that if the Baal gives the money to someone else, to the one that the Isha appointed, and he turns to the Isha and he says, Harei at Mukudeshes, with the money that I gave that person because you told me to give to that person, so she's Mukudeshes, she didn't receive any money. So the answer is because the fact that you gave that person money because of her is considered as if you gave her money, and that we learn out from Arif. So the Chur by Arif, we say you did get the money. It's Pshat is the fact that the other person got the money is Keilu you got the money because that person got the money al pidi burcha. And over here the Rambam is saying that there's a case where a person commits himself without getting anything, and lepel he becomes committed even though he never received anything. If he says this commitment in front of Eidim and it's a clear Gemar Das, and the Rambam says Kemeshi ishtabed the Arav, just like an Arav is mishtabed. So the Mashmoy Sadvarim is the Arav didn't get anything. And nevertheless, he became Meshubit. But L'chura, over there we see that the Arav has a din that he did get something. And that's why you can be Kaddish Ishim in din Arav. So that's sort of beer how this Rambam, where the Rambam writes, Kameshi Yishtav the Arav, which sounds like he didn't get anything and nevertheless he's becoming Meshubit, to the fact that we say that Rosh Isha could be Mekudeshes Midin Arav, which tells us that the Arav did get something, and therefore the Isha also got the Kedushin. Isha certainly can't be Meshaber herself without getting anything. So the only way she could become Mikudesh is because she received the Kesef Kedushin. How did she receive a Kesef Kedushin if you gave the Kesef Kedushin to someone else? The answer is because since she designated him, it's as if she got it. Where do we see this idea that by her designated as if she got it? By Arif. So the Seisnan directed that by Arif, the Pshat is the Arif did get something. So what's Pshat over here? That the Rambam is saying that the Arif didn't get anything. That's a deal that talk about. Halacha Tezayin. Chiv atzmei b'dover she'eni kotzer. Now, new din. A person commits himself to something which is not really, it's not clearly quantified. Kigen she'amar hareini chayev lozen oischo elechasis chomish shonim. I have to feed you or to give you clothes for 5 years. Is aval pi shekonim miyadi. There was a kinyan on this as chayvus. Is lei nishtabed. Why? Shezeh kmei matonehi. This is a shtabdus which is like a matana. And there's nothing clear. If a person says a certain amount of money, so it's clear how much money I commit myself. When he says I'm going to feed you for 5 years, it's not clear how much food you're going to need for the next 5 years, how much clothes you're going to need for the next 5 years, and therefore it's not a clear commitment, and therefore you can't be mechayiv yourself on something that's not clear. If that's the din, so mipnei ram es halacha yudzayin mipnei ma hapesik emishtei sheyazon is bita chayiv lezeinu. We have in Gemara, we had in Rambam earlier, that if a person marries a woman and he makes up with her and he commits himself that he's going to feed her daughter for 5 years, he's mechuyev to feed her. L'chura, we just said that a person can't commit himself for his chayvus, which is not so clear. It's not so clear what it is. So the answer is mipnei shepasek b'shas nesuyin. Normally, a person can't commit himself to feed someone for 5 years. But over here, when this commitment happened during the wedding, b'shas nesuyin, and v'adav edema l'dvarim anikn b'amira, just like dvarim, the special things that are nikn b'amira, kama at nesen lebitcha kach v'kach, kach at nesen lebitcha kach v'kach. So Elohin advarim anikn b'amira. Normally, amira can't be kena, but over here it's kena because b'shas hakedushin. Over there's a gemira's das. There's the chiba, or the happiness of the kedushin causes the gemira's das. So over here also, normally a person can't commit himself in order to feed someone for 5 years, but b'shas and nesuyin, he could commit himself. The b'shas, the happiness of the nesuyin causes that there should be able to be a commitment, even though this is a type of commitment which normally doesn't work. Halacha yudches. Now, kshehoyu chach misvarat, roitzim lahaknis b'asmachta. They wanted to make a kinyan that someone should commit himself with asmachta. And we said before that with kinyan choshuv, you could be makne with asmachta, but let's say they didn't want to rely on this idea that you could be makne b'asmachta b'kinyan choshuv. Now, the asmachta would be is that I want to commit myself in case this and this happens. So he says, the first thing they would take, koinen mizeh shu chayiv l'chaveri me'edin. They would take the commitment. There would be a commitment, a chiyuv, without any tnoim. In other words, Ruvain wants to really commit himself to Shimon in case something happens. But on the other hand, right now, if he would make that commitment, it would be an asmachta. So what they would do is they would make a commitment, make a ma'aseh kinyan for Ruvain owes Shimon me'edin. And once Ruvain was chiyav atzmei with the me'edin, is koinen mi balchev. And now they make a kinyan from this balchev, the person that Ruvain owes the money to. Shekol zman sheyeh kach sheyaseh kach harei chayv zeh mochel le'machshav. He's being moichel the chayv right now if this and this happens. So right now he's being moichel. So the mechila is happening now. But the mechila is happening now if this and this happens. Aber v'im le'yeh le'yaseh harei nitevi b'momen shechiyav atzmei. So the chiyuv was without a commitment. There was no without a t'nai. It was no asmachta. It was a chiyuv. But the other person was moichel, and he was moichel now b'tnai. He was moichel now b'tnai. So Mamela, since he was moichel now b'tnai, so therefore this mechila is a proper mechila al t'nai. So all these types of commitments, where there's an issue whether the commitment is a real commitment or it's not a real commitment, because the churitz asmachta and asmachta likanya. So the way the Chach Misvara did was that they made the commitment should be without any strings attached. In other words, there's the commitment right now, and then the other person goes ahead and is meichel b'tnai. The other person is meichel b'tnai, so the mechila is chal only b'tnai.